Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Crushing the EPPP Supervisor Edition. My name is Dr. Erica Liggins, licensed clinical psychologist and EPPP coach. In today's episode, you are going to be hearing from other clinical supervisors who have seen amazing results after linking their supervisees with my coaching services. Stay tuned to hear more about their experience.
When the trainee I was working with did not pass the EPPP for the second time, I knew we needed help. And so I reached out to a colleague of mine from graduate school who works at Nationwide Children's Hospital and asked if she had any colleagues she worked with who had had this difficulty passing the EPPP and what they'd recommend. And so I got the usual recommendations about certain books you can buy and certain courses. But one that stood out to me was her recommendation from a colleague of hers who was a psychologist of color who had some difficulty passing the EPPP and had recently finally passed after taking Dr. Liggins's coaching and consultation
I knew
program.
Dr. Liggins because we were working together at Mount Sinai under the rainbow at the time. And as I was preparing to take the EPPP, she was just so gracious with all of her own knowledge and process of what it was like for her. And I mean, shared a lot of materials that she had created for herself with me to help me study and really helped me kind of create a map and a plan for how I was going to study and how I should be approaching the test. And so this was long before she had considered doing this as a part of her career, I believe. But she was just so naturally inclined to be so helpful in that way that she was just doing it for me and her other friends, I think, as we were coming up behind her in the process of becoming psychologists.
So one of the challenges that I noticed that my colleague, my now colleague and former trainee was dealing with was kind of the approaching the test, knowing that there are these racial disparities in the test, and really continually identifying that as a core reason. Having studied social psychology literature, I know that that is something that is often going to interfere with the performance of people who are in minority status for whom that is made salient for them, and realized she needed a little bit more than just a new way to study, or would benefit from a little bit more than just a new way to study, and really helping her think through her own kind of framework in which she was approaching the test.
Starting this as a business or considering this as part of her business practice, I was, of course, so supportive, having been helped by her and knowing how much she helped me in this process. I felt like, of course, she would have a lot to offer other people. And I have seen her just really grow and flourish as she's been growing this part of her business. And it's been really cool to see all of the people that she has helped. I mean, some of the people that had tried literally everything else, and then working with her, they were able to finally pass after so many times of taking this horrendous test.
I believe that we have an obligation to help our next generation of psychologists make it through the hurdles we put in front of them, the path through to graduate school, through internship, EPPP fellowship is kind of like a gauntlet, and a lot of really good psychologists don't make it through. And so I think it is upon us to continue to remove barriers with each generation. I can hear some of my colleagues who've been in the field a little bit longer and some of my former mentors referencing kind of this hazing effect where we went through this, and so they have to go through that. And that mentality cannot continue if we're going to continue to uplift the best and brightest. And so we have to continually ask ourselves, how can we do better, rather than upholding the systems of the past that kept people down from progressing in this career.
On my postdoc year, I was dog walking for an entire year alongside postdoc in order to save up money for the exam. And so I couldn't afford to get materials and study and take extra practice tests and all of that. Like, I did the bare minimum. And so being at a place where, paying for a first session or even the self-guided practice that Dr. Liggins offers, like, that's not a lot of money to me or my practice, but it's an incredible gift to a student to a postdoc, to somebody who's pre-licensed who is not yet able to finance that with ease. I've always offered all of my supervisees, because I had such a positive experience and because I believe so much in the help that Dr. Liggins is providing, I offer all of my supervisees some financial support to seek her services as they're.
So I work in a hospital in New Orleans, Louisiana, and we are the 50th ranked state in psychologists per capita in our country. And so my institution really wants to grow and invest in mental health services. And we know that we can't just hire our way out of this. Getting psychologists from other parts of the country to come into an area that is plagued by hurricanes, crime, poverty, racial disparities, and the list goes on and on and on, just can be a little bit of a burden. And so we know that creating a training pipeline that allows us to be able to bring talented psychologists to our area and train them in evidence-based practices, we're more likely to keep them and help our program grow and be able to provide access to youth who really need these services. And so investing in people in their training years is really how we're going to help get ourselves out of this mental health crisis and help us really truly meet the needs of our community.
Helpful for me, for my students and supervisees, in really just finishing this chapter of training and moving on to our professional lives and our independent free practice as clinical psychologists, licensed clinical psychologists.
As you see, everyone benefits when we support future psychologists to pass the EPPP. I would like to officially invite you to join the movement to bring more equity to the EPPP process. All you have to do is click the button that says Take Action and follow a few easy steps. If you have additional questions, you can book a consultation with me, and I'd love to share more information with you about what this movement is all about. Also, before you leave this page, please make sure that you check out my other video called Tips for Supervisors and Training Sites so that you can learn even more strategies of how you can be helpful to your supervisees. Thank you again so much for tuning in, and I can't wait to partner with you.